So good day, everyone. So we will continue with our discussion in principles of imaging. So our what we have discussed before was contrast and radiographic contrast and radiographic density. So we will proceed now with the factors governing the geometric detail. So again, when we say geometric detail, it refers to the sharpness of the image on the radiograph. And this can be affected by the size of a focal spot, the source to image receptor distance, the object to image receptor distance, and other factors including the intensifying screen and the degree of motion. So to have a better geometric detail, to have the best sharpness of image, so it is recommended to use the smallest focal spot size possible. Also maintain the longest standard SID. So the SID again is 72 inches for chest radiography, which is equivalent to 1.8 meters, equivalent also to 180 centimeters and 6 feet. For tabletop, it is 40 inches, equivalent to 100 centimeters, which is also equivalent to 1 meter. For the OID, maintain close or in contact with film. So the patient or the part of the patient should be in close contact with the film. So decrease OID. And for intensifying screen, so we have discussed this before. So rare earth screens and the calcium tungstate screens can also affect the geometric detail, while the degree of motion, when the patient is in motion during exposure, so it can also affect the geometric detail and will cause blurring or unsharpness. So next is motion. So the motion is the greatest enemy of recorded detail because it can completely obliterate or ano ba other term for obliterate? So it can, ano po ba yung ibang term? So it can greatly affect the image sharpness. Kaya as much as possible, so bago tayo mag-expose, so we need to instruct our patients na huwag gumalaw. Okay, hanggat hindi natin sinasabi. So screen film contact naman, this can also affect the geometric detail. So screen film contact refers to the contact between the intensifying screen and the radiographic film inside the cassette. So poor screen film contact can reduce. So it can reduce recorded detail because the degree of light diffusion in the areas of poor contact can be different from those with proper contact. So areas of poor contact can appear blurry. So dapat yung contact ng ating screen and ng ating radiographic film must be uniform all throughout the entire cassette or the entire IR. Kasi pag hindi, so this can happen. So eto, so okay yung kanyang screen, while itong part na to, halimbawa, so hindi pantay yung kanyang screen film contact, so some parts can have increased density. And that may also affect the image and pwedeng ma-misdiagnose ang patient. So also with this, so cassette with good contact can look like this sa letter A. And with wired cassette, yung mga nayuping cassette na ginagamit pa rin. So this can also result to increased density. So to test for poor screen film contact for detail, radiographic detail, ang ginagawa natin is the wire mesh test. So wire mesh test, so this is used to evaluate the screen film contact. This is also good for evaluating poor detail. Next term is geometric unsharpness. So this refers to the loss of definition that is the result of geometric factors of radiographic equipment and setup. So, geometric unsharpness, para siyang opposite ng geometric detail. Pag maganda yung geometric detail natin, so sharp ang image. Pero pag hindi maganda yung geometric detail, so there will be unsharpness, loss of definition, meaning yung ibang parts hindi na clear. Yung ibang structures sa radiograph hindi na rin clear. And this can be affected by distance from object to image or image receptor, or ito yung ating OID, distance from focus to object or from the tube to the object, source to object distance, and distance from the source, which is the focus or the focal spot, to the image receptor or the SID. So again, when we talk about geometric unsharpness, so this can be affected by OID, SOD, and SID. Dapat maintain close contact, so decrease OID. Tapos increase yung ating SOD, increase SID. For visibility of detail, so this is the ability to visualize recorded detail when image contrast and optical density are optimized. So, para rin siyang geometric detail. So, the ability to see clearly those structures in the radiograph also refers to the visibility of the detail. And it can be affected by collimation, the use of grid, and other methods to reduce scatter radiation. So, meaning, para mas maganda yung ating visibility of the image detail, so dapat minimize scatter radiation. So, to minimize scatter radiation, anong kailangan gawin? So, we need to observe tight collimation or small field size. Small field size or tight collimation. Also use of grid because grid absorbs scatter radiation and it can improve contrast. Okay? For factors naman affecting detail and distortion. So again, motion. When there is motion, the image formed in the film will be distorted. So pwede siyang elongated, foreshortened, magnified, or minified. And also, the visibility of the image will be affected kasi nga may blurring na siya. So, pareho rin kapag nagpipicture tayo using our cell phones, our cameras, kapag gumalaw yung ating pinipicturan, di ba, minsan humahaba yung kamay, humahaba yung leeg, and then minsan blurred na rin siya. For focal spot size, again, small focal spot size is recommended to have a good spatial resolution and para mas visible din ang image. OID, so close contact lagi, para maiwasan yung magnification. For SID, so dapat long SID or maximize SID as recommended. Also, this is to minimize magnification. As for the speed, so the higher the IS speed, the higher the contrast will be the result of the image. Kaya lang, yun nga yung isa sa mga downside niya, pag faster IS speed, so medyo hindi ganun kaganda yung resolution. Pero, okay na. Acceptable na siya. For non-screen holder, without the use of intensifying screen, mas maganda ang spatial resolution. Kaya nga lang, we need to use high technique factors to penetrate the patient, and with high technique factors, it will increase patient dose. Again, it's a matter of balance, compensation, and It's a matter of deciding what is important, patient dose or the image quality. For film screen contact, so nabanggit natin kanina, so dapat close contact sila, uniform ang contact to provide a good detail and also to prevent blurring and distortion and unwanted uneven densities. Kung our target object film distance or yung ating SOD, they should be positioned parallel with each other to avoid detail distortion and to have a good visibility of the image. Ibig sabihin, dapat align yung ating tube. Halimbawa, ito yung ating tube. So, dapat naka-align din siya sa ating patient or ating subject. And dapat, syempre, naka-align din yung ating IR. Para maganda yung kuha natin, maganda yung visibility of the image. Kasi halimbawa, dito yung tube natin, andito yung patient, andito yung IR. Diba? Cut off siya. Yung ibang part ni patient, hindi na makukuhanan. Dapat align silang tatlo, the tube, the patient, and the IR, para maganda yung ating visibility of the image detail. Next, another term is radiographic noise. So, radiographic noise refers to the random fluctuation. When we say fluctuation, it refers to changes. Random fluctuation in the optical density of the image. Ibig sabihin, hindi uniform yung optical density. Lower noise results in a better radiographic image, therefore improving contrast resolution. So as much as possible, ina-avoid natin ang magkaroon ng noise. Although this cannot be 100% avoided, but it can be minimized. The radiographic noise has four components. We have the film graininess, the structure mottle, quantum mottle, and scatter radiation. Film graininess, this is inherent. Ibig sabihin, nasa radiographic film na siya. Kapag bumili tayo ng isang box, halimbawa, ng films, so meron na siyang talagang film graininess. So, inherent na siya, although siyempre minimize siya. For structure mottle, so parang film graininess din siya, pero in this case, this refers naman to the graininess of the intensifying screen. So, inherent din siya. Ito sa film, ito naman sa intensifying screen. And then we have the quantum mottle, so which can be controlled by the rad tech. So, may mga pwede tayong gawing paraan to minimize quantum mottle and of course, scatter radiation. For film graininess, this refers to the distribution in size and shape of the silver halide crystals or silver halide grains in the emulsion. Yung pagkakaiba-iba ng sizes and shapes ng ating silver halide crystals sa film, this can also result to film graininess. For structure mottle, so similar to film graininess, as I have mentioned, but this refers naman, instead of silver halide crystals na nasa film, this refers to the phosphors naman present in the intensifying screen. So again, film graininess and structure mottle are inherent. So we cannot do anything about it kasi inherent na siya. When we buy the IS or we buy the film, so meron na siyang film graininess and structure mottle. May built-in na siya noise. Pero very minimal lang naman. So ito yung halimbawa ng ating graininess. So, para siyang may mga grains. So hindi clear ang structure ng image. As for quantum mottle, it is a principal or the main contributor to radiographic noise. It is caused by fluctuation or decrease in number of X-ray photons interacting with the film. As you can see here, ito yung magandang image, ito naman maraming noise. So, ang sabi dito, quantum mottle occurs kapag konti lang yung number of X-rays. So, kailangan natin damihan. And to increase the number of X-rays, we need to increase MAS. This will result to increase X-rays. And this will minimize quantum motel. But the problem, so there is a catch. Kung mataas yung MAS, maraming X-rays, this will also result to higher patients. So again, dito ulit papasok yung compromise, yung decision making, kung alin yung mas importante, yung image quality or yung patient dose. So if an image is produced with just few X-rays, kapag konti lang yung X-rays, so mas mataas ang quantum motel. Okay? So inversely related sila. So higher MAS, higher number of X-rays, mas mababa ang quantum motel. Pero higher naman ang patient dose dahil nga mas mataas yung MAS, maraming X-rays. Also, aside from increasing the MAS with fast speed, increased speed of IS speed, this can also result to increased quantum motel. So therefore, para ma-avoid ang quantum motel or para ma-minimize, so we should use low speed or kahit medium speed. So okay na rin siya. For radiographic quality rules, so kumbaga yung mga fast rules natin. So fast IR speed, so high noise, meaning high quantum motel. And because of this high noise, it will result to low spatial resolution as well as low contrast resolution. Okay? So fast IR speed or IS speed, pwede rin. So, increased noise or quantum motel, it will decrease spatial resolution as well as decreased contrast resolution. Therefore, low ang detail, decreased detail. High spatial resolution and high contrast resolution, so para makapag-produce tayo ng high spatial resolution and high contrast resolution, kailangan i-minimize natin yung noise. Kung syempre, dahil noise is caused by fast speed IR, so syempre, gagamit tayo ng slow speed IR. So para high contrast and spatial resolution and low noise. Low noise accompanies low image receptors with high spatial resolution and high contrast resolution. So actually, if you're going to analyze this three, pare-pareho lang yung ibig sabihin niya. To minimize noise, kailangan gumamit ng slow speed IR. So slow speed IR. So minimize quantum motel or noise. It will increase spatial resolution as well as increased contrast resolution. Okay? Next. Next, we have the characteristic curve. So other terms for characteristic curve is H&D curve or Herter and Driefield curve. And another one is sensitometric curve. Sensitometric curve. So, bali ito yung other terms na characteristic curve. H&D curve and sensitometric curve. So, this is a graph which determines the relationship between the film and the amount of light transmitted. It's also a representation of the relationship between the optical density and exposure. So, ito siya. So there are two parts of the characteristic curve, the toe and the shoulder, which I will show sa next slide. While at the center, we have the straight line portion or the linear region, straight line portion or the linear region. So this is where properly exposed radiograph appears. Sensitometer is a device gaya ng ating densitometer. Sensitometer, which is also known as the optical step wedge. So sensitometer and densitometer are two devices na kailangan natin in order to construct or to formulate a characteristic curve. So ginagamit sila, sensitometer, to determine the sensitivity of the IR. So density naman to determine the densitometer to determine the density naman of the image in the radiograph. So they are used for construction of the characteristic curve. So ito yung ating characteristic curve. So we have the toe here and the shoulder sa taas. So the portion here, the straight line portion or the linear region, kapag dito tumama yung ating radiograph, so meaning properly exposed. Tama yung ginamit natin na technique factor. Diba yung ating acceptable range of optical density is from 0.25 to 2.5. So 0.25 dito hanggang 2.5. So kasali siya sa linear region, properly exposed siya. Below 0.25, tinatawag natin yan na base plus fog density, which I will discuss naman in the succeeding slides in a while. So, this portion here, sa toe portion, so almost clear siya. While sa shoulder portion naman, so very dark na, increased density. We also have here the lag or the relative exposure. This refers to the amount of exposure increase that is needed. So again, the definition of this is the amount of exposure increase. So increase in exposure that is needed to cause a change in OD. So again, if we want to change the optical density, let's say from 0.5 to 1, so the amount of exposure increase needed is calculated or represented by this lag relative exposure. So, some important notes bago tayo mag-discuss ng base plus fog density. So, screen film responds to radiation intensities from less than 0.01 up to less than 10 milligray. So, kapag yung radiation exposure ranges from this value up to this value, so there will be exposure. Because again, the screen film will respond to these values. Most unexposed and processed radiographic film, halimbawa, hindi tayo ni-expose galing sa box pero develop natin, pinrases natin, it still has an optical density kahit walang actual exposure. And the optical density ranges from 0.1 to 0.3. This corresponds to 79% for 0.1 and 50% for 0.3 transmission or light na absorb ng ating radiographic film during manufacturing. Optical density of unexposed film, ito yung unexposed film. Tapos pinrases natin, di ba sabi ko may inherent density siya, which is called the base plus fog density. So base plus fog density is the optical density that is inherent in the base of the film during manufacturing. So present na siya, inherent nga. So the base density has a value of approximately 0.1, while the fog density is the development of silver grains that contain no useful information. Kasi nga fog siya. Unwanted exposure, unwanted density. So fog density on a processed radiograph should not exceed 0.1. So yung value ng ating base density which is inherent during manufacturing. So 0.1 ang kanyang optical density. And supposedly, di ba yung fog density natin, this is also inherent, dapat normally hindi rin siya mag-exceed sa 0.1. Kasi pag sumobra siya sa 0.1, so pwede na niyang ma-affect yung actual image kapag ginamit na natin siya for exposure sa patient. So it should be at minimal. So as mentioned, most optical density ranges from 0.25 to 2.5. Pero meron ding available as high as 3.5 base plus fog. Meron ding available na optical density na 3.5 for fine features like the skin lines. Pero very seldom naman yan. Ito lang yung laging pinafollow natin. So base and fog densities reduce radiographic image contrast and should be as low as possible. Kasi hindi na natin totally ma-avoid, so it should be as low as possible. So different brands of films will also have different values for base plus fog, which are again inherent, pero kailangan minimize lang siya. And it should be between 0.1 to 0.3 only. Okay? So sa ibang book, is 0.2 sa lumang edition. Yan lang yung acceptable. 0.1 to 0.3 is the acceptable base plus fog density which are inherent sa radiographic film. For factors that contribute to film fog, so we have the age of film. So kapag mas matagal na, pag longer na ang age ng ating film, this can result to film fog. So that is why kailangan tingnan natin lagi yung expiry date ng ating film. So usually the film expires within a year. Okay? So after a year, kapag ginamit pa natin siya, so hindi na magiging ganon kaganda yung quality ng ating image because may mga increased fog na. Excessive exposure to safe light. Kapag masyadong mataas yung ating safe light wattage, so it can also result to unnecessary exposure, which will result to additional fog. The safe light wattage should be between 7 to 15 watts only. And the processor chemistry, yung ating developer and fixer, so it can also result to film fog, especially if the temperature is high, siya na-maintain sa recommended temperature, it can also increase fog. Actually, marami pa. Ito lang yung pinaka-basic. So, there are also other things, other factors that can affect film fog. And, ito siya. As you can see, so, may mga fog siya na present. Yan. So, dark cloudy spread of fog as a result of cassette drop. Halimbawa, biglang nabitawan yung cassette. So, or nag-vibrate yung cassette. So, may mga fog na pwedeng mag-occur. Also, for this portion, higher density of fogging often arises from the edge of the film. So, usually, ito yung na-expose unnecessarily, yung mga edges ng films natin from the box. Okay? That's it for the Principles of Imaging Lesson 4.